sounds. Ooh. That is very quiet. All right, talk to me for a minute.
Me now?
Ooh, I can. Say again?
Hear me now?
I get just the end of it, but I'm not getting the whole thing. Oh, it's abcdoula.com, not abcdoulas.com. I don't know if you can change that. I just noticed it.
Yeah.
How are you hearing me?
I can hear
Not
you.
so good? You can. Okay.
I can hear
you too. It's a
hear
little
you.
echoey, but that's good. Okay, I'm good to go then.
Okay, pop-ups. I hate these. Okay, let me change your banner. Is it ABC Doula or ABC Doulas? As
Just
in,
doula, no S.
okay.
And I can do a different name if that's helpful too.
Oh,
So it says we're live right now. Are we live right now?
Yes.
Seems like we could have done a little of this off camera first. So when people watch the background, or watch the replay, they have to watch us do all this.
They're used to it. I promise you. Okay, is that better? It didn't save it.
No,
hold on.
didn't do it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going live in just a second. We have a couple of minutes. Okay, there's a save button. And let me see.
No, I lost the visual. There we are.
Okay, everyone, it is now 7 o'clock and we are going to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Nanny. Tonight, I have a special guest here for you. I'm so excited. Okay. I have been watching her in the background for a long time. She doesn't know it, but I have. And I am in awe of the swaddles. But we're going to talk about sleep first. But before we get started with that, while I share this to my groups, I want Kimberly to give us your background, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that good stuff, and a fun fact.
Fun fact. All right, I'll hold on to the fun fact for a minute. But I started, like many, as a nanny because that is an awesome role to have with families. And I always loved kids. And actually, I always loved babies. I just didn't know you could actually work just with babies. I thought as a nanny, you had to work with families for a couple of years. So I quietly handled toddlers, even though they're really hard for me. And I'm much better with babies. Until somebody told me about becoming a postpartum doula. And then I about blew my mind because I thought, no, that's not real, right? That's not real. You have to stay with families a whole year or two, right? Nope, sure enough, it was a real thing. And I was pregnant at the time. So that was 20 years ago, which is crazy. But my son was born. We started our breastfeeding journey. And the doula I had known said you had to breastfeed for 6 years, or 6 years, not 6 years, 6 months, which actually wasn't a requirement, isn't a requirement, but I did that thinking that's what I should do. So I breastfed for 6 months and then I applied to be a doula, took a training and absolutely came home like, oh, it's a real thing. Like, oh my gosh, people will pay you to do this. And it was, I was like, I can't even imagine a better role than to take all my love for children and all my love for parents and to marry it together in this role with postpartum doula. So I just fell in love with it. And I've always loved babies, just like probably a lot of the nannies and doulas out there. I was that kid who was like, can I hold your baby? Can I hold your baby? Can I work in the nursery? Can I take care of babies? I just love babies all the time. So it was pretty easy. Oh, I lost you. I can't hear you now, Angela.
Can't hear me?
Oh yeah, now I can. Okay. Anyway, so I got trained as a postpartum doula. I started work right away. I loved it. And within a year or two, I was like, I want to teach parents. And so I applied to be an educator. I took an educator course, and then I became a new parent educator at my hospital system in Portland, Oregon. And then I started teaching doula trainings a couple of years after that. And then I became an IBCLC. So basically my work is all around prenatal families, newborn families, and then postpartum families for the first 4 to 6 months or so. I just don't have a ton of expertise after 6 months. Plus, they're just completely different creatures, right? They require a whole different skill set. And I admire those who can work with older babies and with toddlers. My sister's actually a preschool teacher, and she's so amazing. I mean, like, she's amazing. And I don't think I could wrangle 14 preschoolers like to save my life. But you give her 2 babies, like my niece and nephew were born a few years ago, twins. She was like, take one of these. So she can't do the like double baby thing, and I can't do like a room full of crazy toddlers doing amazing learning things. So we all have sort of like figured out our skill set, and mine definitely is that first 6 months or so. So now I sort of blend my time between working at ABC Doula, which is my company in Portland, Oregon, training for Kappa, where I teach postpartum doula trainings, lactation educator trainings, and new parent educator trainings, and teaching at the hospital, which I actually still have a job, even though I don't live in the same state anymore. I still have a job at my hospital in Portland, and then do another fun stuff.
Support.
Virtual, everything's virtual. Yeah, I mean, people don't even ask where I live anymore. I'm just like, yep, here you go. This is my office. Welcome to my office. So yeah, and then sleep's such a big deal because we all have to do it, right? We all need it. Our babies need it. The caregivers need it. Parents need it. And nobody's getting enough right now. Like, we're just either working too hard, babies are too hard. It's just really challenging. So obviously it was a passionate issue from the beginning for me because I didn't have enough of it myself as a new parent. Breastfeeding my kids, I was up all the time. They did not have a beautiful routine like I do with my clients because I was a real parent, like dealing with real things that were really hard. And I'm really disciplined at work, but like at home, I'm like, what do we have to do to get through this? These kids are hard. So it's a very different thing. And, but giving parents tools, at least that they have at their disposal, whether they'll follow that or not is, a different topic. But that's me. I have 2 kids. They're 15 and 20. And I just married one off, which is amazing. So now I have a daughter-in-law too, which is awesome, but no grandbabies on the way yet. I'm not in a hurry. They're still young, but give me a grandbaby any day and I will be a happy woman.
Yes. Y'all can go play. I want the baby.
Yeah, give me the little
6
one.
months, come back and get them.
Yep. I'm all about the teeny tinies. I'm not sure why I had a 10-pounder and an 8-pounder. I didn't exactly get them teeny tiny, but now they're 6 feet. That's my daughter. And 6'5". That's my son. So
wow.
I grew them large. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now tell us a fun fact about you and then we'll get started.
Fun fact. Okay. So fun fact about me is that in my early days of getting married, and I was married fairly young, I did what everybody has been doing lately in that I was a bread maker. It's like, and literally I ground flour from like hard winter wheat berries and made my own bread 20 years ago before I had to. Well, I guess I sort of did have to because I was super poor. And it's really awesome, a frugal thing to do when you don't have a lot of money to make your own bread. So like everyone came out in the Corona virus, oh, we're making bread, look at us. And I was like, I was doing that 2 decades ago. So there you go. There's a fun fact about me. I can make bread out of nothing but hard winter wheat berries. And literally I used the stash from my in-laws. They had prepped for Y2K. For those of you who are old enough to remember Y2K,
yes.
We all thought the world was going to end and we wouldn't be able to like get food. So they stocked up, and that's literally what I cooked on for, I don't know, a year or two. It was big buckets from Y2K. So there's a fun fact about me. I can make do with nothing, which is kind of why my swaddling techniques work too, because sometimes you've got nothing to work with. And I'm like, give me a tablecloth. I can figure it out. Or something.
or something like that.
Yeah.
If it's
Something.
made with cloth and it's big enough to,
Yep.
ding. All right.
Yep.
So the first thing we're going to talk about, I guess that's Sadaya. Seda.
Seda. Hi, Seda.
She says hello. So I just wanted to put that on the screen so you could see that, and so I wouldn't forget.
Yes.
And hello to everyone who is watching, who has come in and come and gone. Hello to everyone that's come in, and we're going to get started talking about sleep. Now, I am a certified sleep trainer, and I know everybody has their method of doing things. Method of, I go by the basic sleep things, but every child is different. So I try to figure out the child what works best, the pacifier method, would put this, that. So what are some of your best techniques that you have used with babies? And then we'll get into the swaddles, because swaddling has a lot to do with sleep. Pretty much everything, to me, is everything.
Yep. Well, I am not a sleep consultant. I definitely do sleep with my postpartum clients, and we talk a ton about sleep in newborn care class because it's such a hot topic for parents, both prenatally and, of course, then when the baby actually arrives. So I definitely talk sleep with clients a lot. I don't do sleep consultant work because you have to work so closely with the parent, and it's so many visits. Like, it's not just like, here, let me give you some things and some tools and off you go with that. It's much more like, let me hold your hand and then we'll tweak this plan and then we'll adapt this. And I got to where I was working 60 or 80 hours a week as a postpartum doula, and I just couldn't hold people's hand with sleep. It was too much. But, for me, the best approach has really been to figure out what the parents want. Like, what are they really looking for? Because I know what infants can do. I know what the process is to get them to where they're going. I just don't always know what the parents are interested in, what they're willing to do, what their motives are. Like, do they need to make a small change, or do they need a completely different situation? And I always want to look, my core is always like, what are the feelings and needs? So babies have their own feelings and needs, right? But parents have theirs. And really the parents are the ones hiring us. So we need to look at who this baby is, but we really need to go at it from what the parents are looking for. I mean, is it a realistic expectation? Is it something that can be achieved in a reasonable amount of time? And are the parents willing to do it? Because I think we could give them all the fantastic tips in the world and they're like, that would be great. Can we hire you to do that for us? And that's what some people offer, but that means that they have to then take on what somebody else feels about their baby, and that can be really tough. So for me, the best tip is ask the parents a lot of questions. Ask them who they think their baby is, ask them what they have tried, ask them what they're open to, and then make a plan and make sure that they sign on. Because if they're not buying into what you're teaching them, they're just not going to get results, right? They're not going to make a stride toward the area they want to go. And then, being really step by step helping them, allowing them to make the changes, even if they're small. Some families are just like, they want huge results, but they only want to make small changes. And that's just, it doesn't always work that way. You have to be willing to put the time in and make your life change. So for me, it's really a kind of a holistic approach where I'm like, okay, what's most important here? If I have a family who's like, we're waking up too many times, the baby's just not going through the night like we want to, we have to look at everything. We have to look at the daytime routine. We have to look at the breastfeeding routine, and are they pumping, or are they bottle feeding, and how's all that working? And if it isn't working, what are the parts that they're willing to change versus what are the non-negotiable parts? Because sometimes what parents are doing that are non-negotiable really affect the sleep outcome. And they're just not going to get the results they want continuing to do it in that routine. It's not a wrong routine. It's fine. It's working. Parents do what works. But if they want something different than what they're doing, they're probably going to have to do something different with the baby. It's rarely just like a quick little, ta-da, you're
and
done.
we're done.
Skate.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like
Yeah.
that. It
I
doesn't
would
work
say in
like
the
that.
first 6 weeks, sometimes I can get a little ta-da moment. But after that, babies get more complex, right? They're starting to come into their prefrontal cortex and they're starting to see a cause and effect with the world. And it's not just meeting the baby's needs and allowing them to sleep.
And they
Yeah.
learn the power of their voices.
They do, and they
And
start
that
giving
is
off cues, and parents are like, we think that means this, and we think this means that. And sometimes they're spot on. You're like, absolutely. And sometimes they miss it a little bit. Like they interpret it in a way that isn't quite connected to what the baby's doing. And then they kind of feel personal about it and don't want to change it because they feel like the baby's going to feel a certain way. So yeah, it's really, for me, it's really about not just what that baby can do, but what will the parents want to do, and how do they feel about it? Because at the end of the day, like, I want sleep results, but I want parents to feel good about themselves, right? I want them to feel good about raising their baby and enjoying this experience, because the truth is that I'm much better professionally than I am personally. I know that. Like, I made tons of mistakes with my kids, and believe me, I am hearing about it when they are teenagers. So it's not like I have this expectation, like, do it like I did. I was just getting through it, right? I did the best I could. I knew how to do it. I just wasn't disciplined. Yeah, you know what? The kids just had to do it. And you know what? They both sleep fine now. Everything's okay. But, it's not because I lived it as a parent. I parented, but I just did the best with what I could. But work-wise, if I look at my own situation, I probably could have fixed it as a professional. I probably could have said, well, I should have done this and I should have done that, and this would have been a better outcome, and blah, blah, blah. But I have these complex kids and complex husband and complex life, and I just did what I did. So for me, I always want to think about, like, at the end of the day, do I want parents to think, man, we really flubbed that up, we should have done better? Or do I want parents to think, like, okay, we can make some changes to have a better lifestyle, to get more sleep, to get our baby more sleep, to, overcome whatever challenges. But if we don't want to change our whole life around, we'll just accept that this is our life and this is the best you can do, because it's a complex situation with babies. Sleep is complex, and their families are complex, and I can't change complexity. One of my doula mantras is that people are complicated, and I neither have to figure them out nor do I have to fix them. Not my job. Which has been a really lovely life motto too. Really good. People are complicated. Don't have to understand them, fix them. Not my job. But with sleep, you do want to at least get them to their goals. So that's the tricky part, is that you don't have to necessarily solve their life problems, but you do need to at least make sure the parents are getting enough sleep, make sure the baby's getting enough sleep. And that's individual.
It is. And I totally agree with you, because as a NCS, I ask a lot of questions. What is your end goal? And they're like, oh, my friends' babies, they were 6 weeks old, they were sleeping through the night. I'm like, oh, okay. Alrighty then. I said, you do realize that all babies are different. You have twins, and they are going to be different. So whatever is going on, there's going to be a difference even in your twins. Although they tend to think on the same brain sometimes, it is still going to be a difference in the way that they sleep, in the way that they respond to sleep. And the biggest thing that I have is parents don't want the babies to cry. And I get that. And I don't want them to cry either. But there is a distinct difference between a whine and a wah! There's a difference. I'm like, give them a chance to figure it out. If you go in every time they whine, they come to expect you to come every time they whine. If you give them a minute to get over themselves, and I set a timer. The first time, 30 seconds. Just give it 30 seconds. And sometimes it will work itself out in 30 seconds. They'll let out this loud cry and then nothing. And then they're, and the next thing you know, they're asleep. But if you go in, when you hear this loud cry, you go running. That's why we have monitors. There's nothing wrong. Look at the monitor before you go running in there. And I try to calm the parents by letting them know this is a whine and that's a cry. Let's go see what's going on so that they will become confident and they will become not so quick to get all hyped up and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I try to calm them down. Once I get the parents calm, sleep training is mainly about the parents. It's
Couldn't
mainly
agree more.
It's mainly training the parents. For the very first time during COVID, a 4-month-old who goes through sleep regression, I sleep trained virtually a 4-month-old. And I was like, oh my God. But she did everything I told her to do. We talked on the phone. She said, but she's not doing this. We'll try that. Well, she's not doing this. We'll try this. She did this. And then the first time she took a whole nap. She didn't wake up in 45 minutes. She was in there for 2 hours. Oh, I'm so excited. I said, okay, great accomplishment. And cheer on the parents. They need to know that they're doing it right. That if they did something, the baby's sleeping, they did it right. Yay! We're gonna have a party. We do the happy dance on video. So
Love it.
I talked with her, and then all of a sudden she said, "Okay, she's sleeping through the night." Within 3 weeks, done. And then she called me back. She said, well, we had some major life changes and the baby's not sleeping anymore. So I said, everybody's got to be on the same page. This needs to happen. Well, do I need to go back to what I was doing before? I said, yes, you need to keep it as consistent as possible. I said, life changes. Baby doesn't know where she is now. She is uprooted. She's not used to the people, so many people around her. I said, she's 8 months old now. She is well aware. If you won't do it, grandma will.
This is true. It's very different 8 months old.
So I told her, I said, you got to get everybody on the same page. And once you get everybody on the same page, then she will calm down and she will start sleeping again. I said, you just need to go back to the beginning where we started and do go in 1 minute, check on her, then after 2 minutes, then after 5 minutes, and after 10 minutes, I said she should be asleep by then. But she said she whined and cried for about 10 minutes. And I went in there and she looked at me. I was like, yeah, can't look at them. Because once they get into those puppy dog eyes, they're like, yeah, I got you. I said, you can't look at them. I said, just put your hand on her back, let her know that you're there. And then, she calms down, you walk away. And she said, after that last time, she looked at me, I turned my head, she screamed bloody murder. I said, of course she did. Like, Mama, get me.
Cognitive behavior, yes. Mm-hmm. Very different than an 8-week-old.
Yes. So, but she went back the next day. She said she took all her naps. We had one time she was up only one time last night. And then it was a couple of days later, I said, how is everything going? She said, smooth sailing. I said,
yep.
I just need to go back. I said, anytime she gets off schedule or you get off kilter, go back to the beginning and start all over again. You'll remember it, she'll remember it, and you'll be back on schedule. And she's like, thank you so much. You really are the baby whisperer. I was like, well, thank you.
Well, yes, I am. Yeah. But I think the key, though, is you had a really compliant parent. You had someone who responded to you, who respects you, who's like, okay, give me something to do. And they're disciplined. I think that's the biggest difference that I see personally, because it's hard to be a disciplined parent. It's really hard. Like, as a caregiver, I'm pretty good at it. But as a parent, I'm like, I kind of don't want to do that. I just want to kind of stay up and watch Netflix and sit on the couch and not really work that hard. And it's harder to be the parent and not be that, trained professional who's approaching it very thoughtfully, right? It's just more complicated as a parent. So when you have someone who's like, okay, I trust you, I'll do whatever you think is right. And then you train them to use their instincts, right? You train them to watch and you train them to see what what the baby's doing. And they start to go, okay, that means this and this means that. And where I want to get the baby is here. So I can do these kind of things as long as I know it's working for my baby and I'm getting the results I need. And I feel like my baby and I trust each other. And I'm not, like you said, the difference between a little kind of cry versus wah, 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 wah is pretty significant, right? And so parents are like, they don't just want them not to cry. They want them not to make noise. But that's not fair. Babies have to have and some expression of what they're doing. And so I always think, let's wait and watch without jumping. So, if you say, like, what are my go-tos? Prenatally, I try to educate parents about light sleep and deep sleep in particular, because they all think that babies only do deep sleep. So light sleep, where it's active and they're wiggly and they make all those little noises, parents don't think that counts. And it's 50% of the baby's sleep. So if they're only waiting for that quiet, deep sleep like a baby, they're going to be missing a lot of sleep, both for the baby and for themselves. So that's really my go-to, is training people, like, how do you recognize the difference? And really just educating parents that there is a difference, because they really don't know. They just think sleep. And they don't think, oh, there's two different kinds, and it really looks very different. And then for me, it's just teaching them sleepy cues versus feeding cues. As a lactation consultant, I always want to teach people about recognizing feeding cues and making sure that they know, when is this baby hungry and when is this baby full? And is this feeding really working for them, especially in the beginning? But as you go further and further into feeding and knowing your child, you start to get a sense of the cues. But first-time parents in particular often think everything means feeding. Like, just feed, no matter what. They make it a little peep, feed them. You see some hiccuping, feed them, right? They're restlessly sleeping, feed them. And a lot of breastfed babies are like, okay, that sounds good. Let's do some more of that. But it's not necessarily helping them toward their goal. And especially if they're already a well-fed baby. If you got a nice, juicy, delicious baby who's growing well and has 4 chins, you probably don't need to feed them every time.
A nice, delicious,
well, you know how they are, like, oh, you're just going to squirt them. Yeah. Well, I have so many parents who are like, I think he's hungry. And I'm like, well, he's 18 pounds, so he doesn't really seem hungry. Tell me what you see as being hungry. Tell me what you see. A lot of times what they see is movement, noise, and they think, oh, that means hunger. And so I feel like we have to do a better job as educators to teach parents what a feeding cue is and what a sleepy cue is. And if they know the difference, it's much easier to pull back just a little. I'm not saying to, not pay attention to the child, but just pause before they move in, because it's natural to want to comfort your baby. Of course, I want parents to do that. I want to do that. But sometimes the comfort they give just interrupts the sleep. And then the baby doesn't get as much. And of course, the parents don't get as much, and everybody's frustrated and tired, and they don't like each other as much. So I'm all about, like, harmony. We have more harmony when babies get enough sleep. Yeah. And then parents get more sleep too. But you have to teach them to pull back just a little, and you have to teach them what they're looking at, because most people don't know newborns, right? They don't know anything about newborns until they have a newborn. People don't share their newborns like they used to. In other cultures, we would pass the baby around and everybody would get experience with newborns, and you would grow up with brothers and sisters, and there'd be babies on your hips and babies in your arms. So you would know them. We don't have it. Most of the couples that I work with are 35, 40, 45. They're amazing at their career. They don't know much about babies. They've never been around babies. Who has time for that when you're going to college and getting a master's degree and being successful and working your butt off? There's no time for babies. So they have this tiny creature that they love with everything, but they don't know what to do with it. And I think that's where, a lot of our work is equipping these really amazing parents who just haven't had much experience yet. And I love that part.
I love it too. Now, I want to talk about these swaddles. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Swaddle Guru.
I'm the
Yoda.
Yoda. I'm the Yoda of swaddling.
Oh my God.
That's what I say. Because it's a transferable skill. It's like the Force. I can teach you.
Can you teach us one or two I don't want you to give away all of your secrets.
Oh, they're all free and on the internet. I'll give away all my secrets. It's okay. The whole point is to give people tools, right? My swaddling site is free. Anyone can access it. It's not,
Okay, see.
it's designed to be an educational tool. So
Okay.
that's what I made it for.
Okay. So, can you show us, if possible, show us how to do one of the swaddles, one or two?
Sure. So give me a scenario. Give me a scenario and I'll come up with a swaddle for you. So give me a challenging
what about
baby
reflux
scenario.
babies? Because I know a lot of babies have, my own child had reflux, and I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the night trying to swaddle him after you, because it's hard to feed a reflux baby. Let him sit up and, okay, I need you to sit up for like at least 15 minutes, let your milk settle, let everything settle, because I don't want to touch him, because if I move him the wrong way, it's just going to go. And I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
after I get done feeding this baby and I burp him and I let him sit up for 15, 20 minutes so his tummy can get all settled, how do I go about swaddling him without that reaction coming out? Is there a way?
Well, I think it would depend on the baby's size and how much the baby's eating. How delicate is that food in there? Are they reflexy like painful reflux? Or are they reflexy like spitty reflux? Like what is the,
I would
what
say
is the reflex situation?
Without the pain.
Without the pain.
A lot
Okay, so
of
just
babies that I've
burpee.
dealt with just
Yeah.
my son didn't necessarily have pain, but he spit up so much that he started losing weight.
Yeah.
I mean, rapid, like half of his body weight in 1 week.
Oh.
Yeah, 6 weeks. So we were in and out of the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks. And by the time we made it out of the hospital, that swaddle, he was out of the swaddle stage, because when we went to the hospital, he flipped over in the bed. I was like, oh my God. When did you start doing this? And I'm like, you're only 6 weeks old. What do you mean?
He's saying, I am miserable on my back, Mom. Let me do this. Yeah.
So he flipped over. So I stopped swaddling him because he was starting to flip.
Yep.
But young babies who have that reflex tendency, and it's not a painful thing, but you burp them and then you go to put them down, and once you start picking them back up, they go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, if I had a really reflexy baby, I probably wouldn't put them down. I probably would try to swaddle them in my arms just so that they could stay upright. Or what I do a lot with bottle-fed reflexy babies, because of course I'm not breastfeeding my clients, I would probably feed them about halfway or 2/3, burp them and then swaddle them, and then finish that feed while swaddled. Because that way they're already upright and you're not messing with them when their tummy is the very fullest, right? Now, they might not be super happy that you interrupt their feeding. I've definitely had a few babies like, and definitely have a few who, like, once you stop, they're like, nope, I'm not going to do it anymore. So you want to be really mindful that that baby will continue to feed. But especially if they need a burp anyway, I probably would break that. And then, in particular, I would want to swaddle with the hands here, because I want to give that torso some structure. And if you swaddle their arms straight down, which, really works well for long-term swaddling, a baby with reflux is going to do a lot of torso movement, and that might be bringing more up. Whereas a baby with their arms more centered in their chest or having some structure might have a little less disruption. And when they move, they're not going to be contorting their bodies quite so much to have more explosions coming up. So for me, I probably would say feed the baby halfway or 2/3, burp them, lay them down, swaddle them, and then pick them back up, finish that feeding swaddled with their hands structured up by their chest, whether they like them, whatever they like. Wherever their little hands go, I try to follow. But I'm a fan of swaddling with arms down as they get to be a little bit older, and certainly a 6-week-old could do that. but I often don't do it with refluxy babies. The other thing is that they work a lot harder to roll over. Babies who are really uncomfortable on their back, they're trying to get to their sides. They're trying, just like your son, trying to get to his tummy. And I think if you're going to swaddle them with their arms down, they're going to stay on their back more. But if they're going to try to roll over, let's let them roll over. And if they're going to roll over, it's much safer for them to have their hands swaddled up by their chest than it is to have their arms pinned down. I see a lot of refluxy babies being extremely motivated to get to their sides, to get to their tummies. And if I have a baby who can roll over swaddled, well, you betcha, then I'm going to let them not be swaddled, right? Let's let them roll where they can want to roll and get where they're comfortable so they can sleep better. I think of it like a pregnant woman who's really, really pregnant, right? And she just can't get comfortable. And I think, how would we ever say to her, like, no, you have to sleep like that. I'm sorry. I know you're uncomfortable, but that's the safest way for you to sleep. You have to do it. No way. We would like move the pillows around and keep moving and try this different and try this surface and sit her upright and sit her semi-reclined. We would just keep working until she was comfortable. Unfortunately, with babies, we don't have a lot of freedom to make them comfortable because we have to have this firm, flat surface that is the safest place for them. So it's really tricky because we're all about trying to like bring comfort, but we have to do it in this very specific way. So for me, working within those boundaries, we got a baby who's got to sleep on its back, a baby with reflux, a baby sleeping on a firm, flat surface, then I would probably say, let's give some structure to that upper body. So I'll show you what I would do. And of course, it's really hot right now. So I'm going to do a little something in flannel and then a little something with a muslin blanket over the top. Of course, if you're in Arizona heat like I am and it's 115, you probably wouldn't dress the baby in anything other than a diaper. But I have a doll baby that's already dressed. So some of you are like, oh my gosh, Kimberly, it's August. Are you sure you want to dress this baby in this much? It's going to look like a lot of layers. But here's what I'll start with. So I have a muslin blanket, just the big thin with the corner folded down. I have a flannel blanket, which is the receiving size, just a little flannel blanket. And I fold the flannel blanket into a triangle. And the reason I do that is there's a bias stretch. So there's a little bit of stretch because of the way the flannel's cut. So I have people who do this this way. And you could, but I think it doesn't give you as much to work with. You don't have as much stretch there. And I'm always about making sure babies' lungs have lots of room to move, making sure babies have, adequate space, but also doing it really like tight and snug. So here's this blanket. Here's this corner. There's my triangle folded. And then I add this one over the top. I'll get my little sad refluxy baby. This is the best way I can teach swaddling. Now, of course, I wouldn't do it with a newborn like this, but this is how I teach swaddling when I have to show people this way versus facing down. But personally, I would probably want their hands at center. That would be my goal, just because I want that baby with floppy windpipe, floppy spit up zone to have a little bit of structure there. And I like to do the arms individually, over the shoulder, over the arm. And then rather than doing a roll, like I normally would roll and tuck, I would probably leave that baby very flat and just work that blanket underneath them so that it's smooth, but not so much of an aggressive roll. Like in the videos that I use, I would roll the baby to the side, but with a refluxy baby, I don't want to disturb them at all.
Right.
Burping, and that's it. So then the other corner would come over that hand, nice and tucked in, and then again, just kind of work that blanket. And now I know it looks like layers, but I'll get it nice and close so people can see what I'm doing. That last blanket will go over the corner, and that'll really pin those hands in. And then again, no flipping, just tuck, tuck, tuck. And then always with the snugging. I think that's the step that a lot of parents forget to do, is to snug the gaps out of the blanket. Because if you have a lot of gaps, you're just not likely to get that tight fit, especially with a muslin blanket, which has such a weave that I find really slippery. I have a lot of parents who like to use them, but if you don't do them really, really snug, it just doesn't stay. So I do the Dr. Karp technique where you flip the bottom over the shoulder, but I think that's really optional. before you do that last step down, and I probably would cover those little hands up just so they don't scratch the baby's face. And I don't know if you can see my little V-neck there, but I'm a big fan of the tuck flip. You can see that little pocket I've made, and then around, always with the baby's upper torso being the hug zone. I think about the baby needs like a hug here. This is the digestion zone, right? We leave that baby to be able to kick and wiggle and pull and push its legs because it's got to work that gas out, and we don't sleep babies on their tummy anymore. But if we have a baby with a torso hold that's nice and snug, they're much more likely to get some structure in order to not lose all of what they're dealing with. So that's what I would do if I had a 6-week-old refluxy, non-disturbed little guy telling me, please let me keep my food. So, yeah. And I probably would do it on a semi-inclined surface, but I actually can swaddle a baby this way, like facing out. And if I show a parent, I might do it that way, but it's really tough for parents. So I try to teach the way I would want them to do it so that they can emulate that approach. So I would vary it up, but yeah. So that's one technique. That's that interior blanket with the flannel in particular is such a key, I think, because you can let the baby choose their arm position, where a lot of swaddles that are pre-made are like, arms go down, arms go down. Well, that's fine if you have a baby that can handle that. If your baby's moving in extension and they extend their arms at play, they're not holding their body in flexion, then an arms down swaddle might work really well. And I do have a lot of babies who do well with that. But if you have a baby who's holding their body in flexion a lot, or if they're having pain, pushing their arms to an unnatural position just doesn't seem kind to me. Like, it doesn't seem like it'd be the baby's natural tendency to want to have those arms pushed down. Now, do they sleep like that? Well, they do. It works really well. But sometimes there's so much fight. And when I feel a baby who's like resisting that swaddle, forcing them into it doesn't feel right to me. To me, they're trying to say, do you hear what's happening in my body? There's a lot of tension here. Can you respect that? And so I think, okay, well, where do your arms naturally go? What fits so that we don't have to push you into this unnatural position, so that when you settle, you can get some of that ease and that body ease. Just like if I were helping a postpartum woman and helping her get in and out of bed, I would want her body to be fully relaxed. You know, when I'm helping a mom breastfeed, you can often see that they're like, no, it's totally fine. Everything is fine. And I'm like, it's not fine. Your ears are up to your shoulders are up to your ears. Like, and they're like, nope, baby's latched on. Great. And I can tell, like, there's tension in her body. And then we're not designed to do this caregiving, this breastfeeding or sleeping in tension. Like, we have to respect what the body's telling us. And even though a baby's super tiny, they can tell us with their body tension what they're comfortable with and what they aren't. And, you know, we often have to do things like change their diapers and, you know, put clothes on them that they don't like. They're not particularly thrilled about being messed with. But if you can do it respectful to what the baby's body is telling you, even though they can't vocalize like, oh, that, you know, that position's uncomfortable or I'm cold, you can follow the tension in their body and respect where they want their body to go. And I think with swaddling, you have to be really mindful of that because, you know, newborns, they just don't tell us very much. And a lot of parents aren't picking up on those subtle cues. Now, professionals are, you know, doulas and NCS and nannies are, they're watching like a hawk. They know exactly like, that means this and this means that, because that's their whole job, not their whole job, but that's their main focus is that baby and creating that ease. Whereas parents are thinking about a million things and about what they do with this baby, creating things that they will enjoy or not enjoy later, right? They might be thinking, oh, well, if we swaddle him so much, like, how's he ever going to sleep on his own? And parents have these odd things. Like, I don't know, I had one parent once say, well, but if she gets used to the white noise, you know, won't she have to take that with her all the time? Like when we're camping, well, we have to have the white noise. Like, they weren't even thinking that this is a 6-week-old baby who needs this thing for right now. They're thinking about a 6-year-old they're going to take camping who might have to have a white noise machine with her. And I thought, that's so the difference between caregiving and parenting, right? Because with caregiving, we're watching what's happening right now. How can we help right now? What is the stage the baby's in? Knowing the next stage will be different. The next stage will be different. Things will keep evolving. But as a parent, you project whatever this baby's doing right now into the forever zone, right? This baby's going to need this. It's going to be super needy. Oh, they're going to need white noise. It's going to be one of those, one of my friends who takes her box fan camping. It's like, ah! Like they're already projecting how it's going to be. And you're like, they're just 6 weeks old. Like, let's just let this baby be a baby, because later there'll be this and this and this, and you'll have lots of time to change it. So it's funny to me every time I work with parents, because they come up with things where I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of that. But they are thinking about it, and 100 other things that, you haven't thought about as a caregiver, because you're just trying to get them on the right page with this baby and understand this baby. So it's really that blend of kind of figuring out what the baby needs and figuring out what the parents are thinking the baby needs.
Right.
And sometimes parents are absolutely spot on. Like I've had parents say, does it seem weird? But I think it might be this. And I'm like, wow, that's super insightful. Absolutely. Let's look at that. And sometimes they see things I never would see because they're with babies all the time. They don't know how to recognize it if they're not trained to be around babies, but they know something's up.
Right.
I imagine that when your son was losing weight and spitting up, everything in you was like, beep, 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 like Danger Will Robinson, right? Like, we got to fix this. And you don't just go, oh, well, isn't he a spitty little thing? You think, how can I fix this? My kid's suffering. I got to fix it. So
the one thing that I tell my moms is trust your instinct. This is your baby. Yeah. You are learning your baby. Trust your instinct. If you think something is wrong, ask questions. Even if it may seem stupid to you, that is your baby. That is your number one priority, your biggest asset of your life.
For sure.
Ask questions, because these are precious. That's your precious baby. And if something goes wrong and you didn't ask that question, then you're going to feel bad. And most of the time, I think parents are thinking, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing all the questions that they have?
I'm still thinking that, Angela. Are you not still thinking that? I am still thinking that. 15 and 20. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Yes. I don't know.
They all want to know, am I doing this right? Especially brand new parents. And I work with a lot of twins. And, well, she's doing, and it's hard for them not to compare their babies. Well, why is she doing this and she's not doing it? Well, why is she doing it? I said, well, babies are individuals. They will do what they want to do. I said, I promise you, your twins are going to flip-flop.
For sure.
What she's doing this week, she'll be doing next week. What she's doing this week, she'll be doing next week. And vice versa. I said, they will flip-flop. Most of their lives, they will flip-flop. And then when they get to the point where they start having their own little personalities, and you're like, well, this is my easy baby, and this is one, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this child? And it's like, well, all babies are different. You have to look at your gene pool. Who do you know in the family that like your baby?
Who can you pin this on? We gotta know.
Yes. I mean, you brought two genes together to create one, and then that one split. And hello, you got a lot of genes in there, because mom has mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, great grandma, great grandpa, and you could have Germany and Africa come together, and then we're moving to America, and then so I still have all my German and African roots, but then I marry Italian. So you got all this over here and Italian coming together. You got 3 different nationalities coming together.
Culture, right, going on right there in that one family. Yep.
And by the time it gets to this baby, you're like, well, why is that? Why that? Well, let's look through the gene pool. Let's look through the cultural pool to see
Who can we pin this on?
Yes.
Somebody's at fault here.
Somebody's doing this. So it's usually, I know the lightest one in my family. And everybody's like, why does she belong in your family? And they look at me like, you don't belong. But I stand next to my dad. Oh, you look just like your dad. Yes, I do. But if I'm not beside my daddy and I show them individual pictures of my family, like, where did you come from? But my grandfather had red hair and was fair skinned. So I reached back to my grandfather and grabbed all of his roots, and here I am. And it's like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm that one. So you have to look into the gene pool. You have to look and see it came from somewhere. You may not know readily where it came from, but babies, they're going to have different personalities. And that doesn't mean just because they're acting that way right now, that when they get older, that they'll be still having the same habits, because you are teaching your child. And that, as you teach your child right from wrong, as you teach your child what to do, what you would want them to do, what you expect them to do, what they want to do and what you expect them to do could be two different dudes. And
maybe once in a while they might think something different.
Yes. but you educate your child and you guide your child, and yes, we have to share. That's your sister. Share. We're not behind two of everything.
That's right.
Yeah. So it takes I think parents just want to know, am I doing this right? Or why are they doing this? Because they're not used to their child acting that way. They haven't been around babies. They don't know. Well, that's kind of normal. They're supposed to do that. Oh, I didn't know they drew like that. Yeah, you might want to get some bibs. Because, It's going to come. As long as they're teething, it's going to come. So I like the fact that parents are learning, and you have to teach them as they learn. But you encourage. I like knowing that I am encouraging my parent. I don't like making them feel like you're doing something wrong. So swaddling is one of the hardest things for parents to do. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was like, I'm so excited because I get to learn some new ones and I can teach them. And I have my little baby. I do an all things baby boot camp. And so with my parents, before the baby is born, hopefully before the baby is born.
Yeah, hopefully. They take a class so you can teach them how to do it, right?
That's right. Yeah. Now what are you going to show us?
I'm going to show you the easy one because you said swaddling is so hard. And I agree. A lot of parents just can't seem to get it. And so I'm going to do the easiest one I have. Just super duper easy, which is same idea with the receiving blanket, just the stretchy bias, so just flannel. And then I love the Velcro pouches because they're just so simple. See?
I can't stand those.
You don't like them. Is it because of the noise?
In the middle of the night, if you go, babies are like, and I'm like,
what just happened?
I'm sorry, baby.
I don't usually do the Velcro part at the bottom. I just do the Velcro part at the top. So the only time I would need to unswaddle them would be for feedings, which I need to have them awake for anyway. Okay. I can change their diaper just by hooking up. Let's see if I can switch this a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I still do the 2 layers. So I still do we call it the arm capture or the bat wings. And of course, if I had babies' arms that were straight down, I could do over the arm, under this arm, tuck this baby in. Or if I have a baby who's a Houdini, which we call this the Houdini,
ooh,
I do the over the arm. Yep, over the arm, and then lift the baby's body up, tuck him in underneath.
Yes.
So their arm's still by the side, but the weight of the baby is keeping that body down. And then it's again on the other side. Tuck.
You have a
the baby's arms. Yes, exactly.
Baby.
Super baby. Yeah. And then if it's not too hot, I put baby's feet in the pouch. Unless they're super duper big kickers and flexors, sometimes I'll leave their feet out, but usually I leave them in. And so this is the Velcro pouch I would not do if it's really disruptive to babies, because you can still get a really good attachment just by making sure everybody's inside the pouch there. This one tucks over, and again, I'm snugging. Always the key with a nice tight swaddle is the snugging and a tuck in a little bit there. And then this part of the Velcro is the noisy part. So these two tabs here. And then I wouldn't probably undo those. I would leave those tucked in. And then if you don't do the Velcro pouch here, if you fold that, let's see if I didn't tuck it in. Yeah, there we go. Then you can just undo the baby to do the diaper change, and you don't have to worry about this noisy bit waking them up if you're just doing like a sneaky diaper change, right? If you got to wake them up anyway, or they're a preemie and they need to get up, then it's not a big deal. But I like that one because you don't have to disrupt the Velcro here. You can just disrupt this piece, and that doesn't need a Velcro. So what I love is that it's just so simple, and you have lots of still flex in the legs, but you have this baby who's really well contained and not getting out, which is important. Not getting out of the swaddle until they're ready.
I have Houdini babies all the time. And it's there's always one twin who's the Houdini. And that arm just comes up like this. And they're like this. Or like, how did you get out of there? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the arm is swinging, and then they get started and whack. They go hit their faces, and the party's on. Yeah.
So I do use the Houdini, and I do like it. I just don't use it until the baby can bust out of everything. And usually that's 6 weeks or so. They're getting to where they're needing the swaddles less, and they're doing lots of twisty movement. And then I'm like, all right, let's lock those arms down. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do it if the baby's reflexy, and I certainly wouldn't do it on a fairly compliant baby who's just lying happily swaddled with whatever their arm position is. But I really think it's, swaddling is about not restraining the baby, but more about teaching them that they can be comforted in a different position than they might want to be. Because a lot of babies would much prefer to sleep on their parents. They would much prefer to sleep in their arms. They would much prefer to sleep, on their tummies or on their sides. They're just not crazy about their backs. And, we're in a season of back sleeping being the safest recommendation. I don't know that season will last. Personally, I think that at some point they're going to say, this really isn't that good for infants. Infants don't like this. Let's do something different. But until we have research that proves that that's safe, we need to respect those rules and try to get parents having their babies sleeping on their backs. But babies just naturally don't want to just sleep alone on their back in a crib. Like most babies just don't naturally want to do that. And if you look at the mammal world, they don't want to either. They want to sleep next to a parent, sleep next to their siblings, sleep in a pile, cozy and warm and, curled up and lots of fun, fluffy, warm things. And we can't do that with babies. So I feel like swaddling is this, like it's a little hug that you give them that makes them feel like they're still being held. And it's respectful of where their bodies want to be in space without just letting them be on their tummies or letting them be on their sides. So it just gives them enough resistance to go like, okay, this isn't ideal and I don't feel perfect, but I do feel okay. I feel safe and protected until they don't need it anymore. And then, when they're busting out of everything, sometimes I'm like, well, they're busting out because they're done. They're done being swaddled. And maybe let's just have a rough night or two while this baby figures out he wants to get on his side, or he wants to get on his tummy, or he wants to stick his butt up in the air and sleep, with his hands under his chin. Because I have a lot of gassy little babies who are pretty thrilled to get their butt up in the air and get rid of all that pressure and sleep happily on their chest with their butt in the air. If they can get themselves there, I'm like, stop swaddling them. Let them do that.
Yeah.
But there's that, you have to be unswaddling them a lot during the day. You have to be doing a lot of tummy time during the day. And so just like sleep, you're making those incremental changes so the baby has the ability to do that. So they can ditch the swaddling and move on with their little mobile baby life. But if you're having them swaddled all the time, it's going to take a lot longer for that baby to graduate out of the swaddle because the baby's just not doing all that muscle movement to get their body aware enough to make those movements that'll help them. So I'm all about like daytime, get those swaddles off, get those babies moving. which I don't have to tell nannies or caregivers or doulas or NCS. They're all over it, right? It's the parents who are like,
Tummy
maybe
time,
they'll
tummy
sleep through the
time,
next
tummy time.
meal. What's
Yeah.
that?
I said tummy time, tummy time, tummy time.
Yeah, all over it.
It's all about tummy time.
Yeah, and caregivers do it amazingly well. I'm always impressed watching nannies and NCS and doulas because they're on it. They know how important it is. They can really encourage the baby. And just like sleep, they're not completely overwhelmed when the baby goes and doesn't like it. Right? They're like, "Ooh, look how strong the baby is. He's doing so well. Oh, look, he's lifting his head." Even if the baby's going, that's great. That's like lifting a big heavy weight. They're doing great. So caregivers do it just beautifully. It's just the parents are like, "See, he hates it. Look at that sound he made. Not fun." And then they pick him up and go, "You don't have to do it anymore." And I don't blame them. I feel the same way. I don't want my kids to suffer and have to struggle, except you kind of get stronger that way.
Yes.
You have to push through a little bit to achieve.
That's right. And I always tell parents, I use their frustration to push them forward. I said, yes, they are going to cry because they don't like it. I said, but there's a difference between whining and struggling to get the, and that crying, that what? I said, and then you have to take the time to. I said, it's just like a pancake. You have to turn them back and forth. Let them have some, oh, I'm looking up, and then let them have some, oh, I'm looking down, and then, oh, I'm looking up. So they don't get that, get to that point. They enjoy it more when they're flipped like pancakes. Give them, you got a minute on your tummy, a minute on your back. Now let's do a minute on your tummy. And now let's do a minute. And I told them, start out with 5 minutes. Just start out with 5 minutes. I know it's probably going to be the longest 5 minutes of your life because, babies don't like it. But start out with 5 minutes and flip, 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 flip. And with you flipping them, don't pick them up and turn them over. I slide a hand over and kind of gently guide them over their arm. I said, it teaches them, okay, I'm rolling over and my arm was in the way, but I can move it this way, get it out of the way, and I can flip on over. I've had many babies who get frustrated, kick their feet, and all of a sudden they're on their tummies and they're like, ah! Or they kick their feet and they're on their back and they're like, ah! It scares them but if you keep putting them in that position, they keep kicking and they're determined, I'm not going to be on my tummy anymore. And they flip on their backs. That's what tummy time is all about. They're using those muscles. They're learning, if I do this movement, it's going to flip me over. Hello. That's what we're trying to get you to do. We're trying to get you to flip over. We're trying to get you to move. We're trying to get you to that point of, yes, you're doing it. And then you're like, okay, now move everything out of the way because Carlin is coming next.
And life is all about change. Hence I like to only work till about 6 months, because after that, the world is their oyster, and that is a whole different world. I was just with my 3-year-old niece and nephew this past month, and oh my gosh, 2 3-year-olds are like a tiny little whirlwind, emptying drawers and dumping out buckets and exploring things and pulling things. And I was like, oh, it's a good thing I love these kids, because this is exhausting. It's hard to just even keep track of everything they're doing. So, I mean, they mastered the tummy time, and they are very active little kids.
Oh,
but
great.
Yeah, it's a whole different world when they become mobile. And then when you can start hearing what they're thinking, 3-year-olds are just la, 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 like They don't ever stop. They just sing songs about what they're doing at that very moment. And I love it. And then I also think babies are so much simpler. Just give me a couple newborns. I can do that. I got that down. I can totally make 2 newborns happy. But 2 3-year-olds are like, I'm sweating, right? Like I'm working hard. So yeah, it just tells you your skill set. Yeah. Yes. When you're newborns are nothing. That's fine. Yes. And people are like, oh my gosh, newborns terrify me. I'm like, no, they're not terrifying. They're awesome. But it really depends on what your skill set is and what you're comfortable with and how you can meet their needs, right? For me, I have to work really hard at meeting 3-year-old needs because those don't come naturally to me. Whereas newborns, I can do it almost in my sleep. Almost.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's why I say I up to three. I'm good up to three. 0 to 3, that's me. Once they get past three, and when they get to what I call mouth almighty,
Sassy stage. I'm all about it. Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Bye.
that's not my child. That is not my child. That is not my, oh, Lord Jesus, that is not my child. Oh, help me, Lord. I know my limits. And I
Mhm.
know it's not that I can't work with them. It's just that I prefer that aha. Oh, I did it. Did you see me? Oh my gosh. Yes, I love that stage. From babies to, I'm the infant toddler specialist. Preschool, I used to teach preschool. I had the 4-year-olds. It was wonderful. But I know I prefer 0 to 3 years old.
Yep.
That's just me. That's who I am. So I, I'm
You
staying in
got
my
to do
lane.
every stage when you're parenting, right? When you're parenting, you get to do
Yes.
every single stage, whether you like it or not, you get to do it. But when you do it professionally, you get to say, where am I the best? Where do I shine? That's where
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to be. Yep.
Where I'm
And
going
for
to
me,
be.
my window's very narrow. It does not
Zero
go
to six.
much past.
And that's why you're a postpartum doula, so you can be in and out, in and out,
Yep.
in and out.
Yep.
But
Couple of months and I'm, mwah, you got this.
but
And
does
then
it
I
get
often hand it
easier?
over to a nanny who carries it after that. So
But does it get easier
does it get
when you
easier?
when you're going from family? Because I know me as a newborn care
Oh.
specialist, I'm there from maybe 6 to 8 weeks, and I fall in love with my babies. And
Mm,
every time I have to move on, it's like I'm leaving my babies.
yeah.
It's like I know I didn't birth them, but it's like I watched you grow and do this, and you're doing that, and now I gotta go.
Yeah. It's really
So,
hard. I feel so invested in my families when I'm working with them. But I also think that as soon as I have a minute, then I have another family. And so they take up all my thoughts and attention and how can I help them and how can I best customize what I'm doing. And so it isn't that I don't still love those families, but then they show up at the farmer's market or something with 2 4-year-olds and I'm like, what happened? Wasn't I just there last month? Look at your giant kids. But it's
yeah.
because you have to give your heart to what you're doing at the time. And I've worked with 2,000 families. There's no way I could follow up with everyone, because I'm not staying years with each family, right? Sometimes I just do a couple visits. Sometimes I do 4 weeks. Sometimes I do 8 or 12 or 16 or whatever. But that's how you have that many different families. But there's no way I could keep track. So that for me, it's easier because there's always another family that needs me. And as soon as I jump into that, then I fall in love with that family. And I'm good in the moment. But I know some people who are, they stay with one family 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 12 or whatever. And then they follow all of those families, all of their career. And I have to admire those. I mean, that's so amazing to stay that connected. Oh, I love it. That's a gift. Like, it's not that I don't love those families. I just don't like plan presents for them and send 1-year-old cards and send 5-year-old cards. And I'm just always so impressed with people who have that skill set because I don't have it. And it's awesome.
Well, I keep up with them on Facebook because a lot of my families, I'm friends with them on Facebook. So I watch the kids grow and I make comments on them and happy birthdays and all that. Now I don't send cards and all that other stuff because then I'd be totally broke from all the kids that I've worked with.
Right?
But
It's so many birthday parties to have to attend.
but it's easier to acknowledge happy birthday. It's easier to. My first nanny child just graduated high school.
Oh, look at us
And
in
I was
our
just
like
like,
two decades.
oh my God. I had him at 3 months old. And he
Hmm.
graduated. I was there with them for 7 years. And he graduated high school. I was there when the second baby was born. And now she's in high school. And I'm just like, oh my God, my babies. And so I keep up with mom and dad, and they send pictures and all that good stuff. And that's how I stay connected. And I love
That's
watching
awesome.
them grow. But I love the families that I work with presently while watching the others grow. And I like to keep
Mhm.
up with them to see what they're doing, to see, how they turned out. A set of twins that I took care of in Atlanta, I used to go running with them in the park. Now both of them are running marathons and they're like 12 years
Oh,
old. And I was like,
oh, I
I
love
did
that.
that.
I did that. I put that love in their heart of running. That was for me.
They would get in the stroller, and if I started walking, they were ready for me to run. They would start rocking like this, like, come on, come on. And I was just like, okay, give me a minute. But all those things, I don't know. It's just.
Well, that's, I think, the beauty,
hard.
though, of nanny work is that, it's not a short-term investment. It is a long-term investment in
Yes,
in
it
that
is.
family and in those kids. And I think it's really, I just value the nanny role so much that when you're in there with a family, you are really in it for the long haul. You are not just in it for the moment. Like for me, I'm just trying to get families through those first 3, 4, 5 months until they can feel confident and they can move on into the next stage. But nannies are like making investments for life. Like those are memories. I mean, babies are not going to remember that they had me there. Babies are going to know that they were cared for and they're going to have love and have a bond with their parents. But the doula role is more that foundational of the parents loving the baby and knowing what to do. But that nanny role, you really have a relationship with the child that is as a parent like caregiver, and you really invest in them. So, staying connected to them for long term just makes so much sense. And I love it. I mean, I think about the kids that I got to care for as nannies when I was with them for a couple of years. And it's a sweet investment in their life. And that part's gut wrenching when you have to let go of it. It's a little easier for me to move on from a 12-week-old to a newborn baby or preemie twins than it would be for me to leave a 3 or a 4-year-old to start another family, because I would be like, but I love that child and I always think about what presents I can buy them and what fun things we can do. And that would be a lot to let go of. So I just think that's the beauty of the nanny role too, is there's so much attachment. And then unfortunately, the drawback of that is when you have to leave, you have to sever a little of that attachment, and that's hard. So
Paige says, my first nanny kid is a grandmother.
I'm sure a very young grandmother, though, Paige, like an exceptionally young, vibrant grandmother.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because I could be a grandma at this time, but I'm still young and vibrant and energetic, right? Like I could be a grandma. I'm not hurrying them. I'm happy whenever they give me grandkids. But yes, we'll take it. We'll take the babies whenever they come, right? Babies are a good thing.
Yes. So tell us, do you have any classes coming up? Because I know if you all were listening and you want to know more about being a doula, postpartum doula, Kappa.
I will tell you all about it.
Yes, she would tell. I've had, since I started this Coronial series, I've had all Kappa women on here.
Oh, love it.
Yes.
Yay. All my colleagues.
Because I had Priscilla on here and I had Laura Nance on here, and I was like, all of these. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I did that, but yes.
Well, we happen to have some pretty amazing people on our team, but
yes.
So I don't blame you for loving up them. I think they're both fabulous too. So if you want more information, so a lot of people are unsure about the doula role. Like, do I want to add this? What is this training about? What am I going to learn? So I do an introduction to the doula role class. It's like a 3-hour live interactive class. And I have one of those coming up tomorrow and September 6th. We call it the introduction, or so you want to be a doula kind of class. Okay. And then I have a doula training at the end of this month and another one at the end of September. And then I also have lactation educator trainings and new parent educator trainings coming up this fall. And for those who are going to be at the Kappa conference, I will see you there. I'm going to be playing a couple different roles. I'm speaking, and I'll be doing a live Q&A, and I'm emceeing. So I'll be introducing some other fabulous people who are speaking. So the Kappa conference is a week long, week and a half or so, and has some recorded portions and has some live portions. So yeah, lots of opportunities to interact with me in the next few weeks and months. I'll be virtually very available, more so than I have been the last few weeks while I got my son married. But it's fun. It's so great to be able to connect to everyone. And I wish that we could be more in person, but I'll take what we can get, and that's some good connection virtually.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and for showing us your techniques. And you can go on her website, abcdoula.com, and find out some more information about her classes. She is on Facebook. Please follow her on Facebook, ABC Doula. That's the least we can do is go and follow her and like her page. And if you want to find out, so you want to be a doula, then her class and show some love. That's all I'm saying. Show some love. Now, couple announcements. Don't forget to get your tickets for the U.S. Nanny Association Parent Nanny Conference. It's coming up soon. I mean, like today's the 17th. In 1 month, like tomorrow, 1 month from tomorrow, it starts. It's a whole week of parent seminars and nanny seminars. I'm going to be your host on Saturday, the 19th. We will be live. We will be giving away some swag, some giveaways from different companies. Trust me, you don't want to miss this, okay? It is September the 18th through the 25th, which is actually the week of National Nanny Recognition Week. Hello. And As the Nanny is turning 3. Yay! September the 1st, we'll be 3 years old. And I am celebrating by giving away a gift card every day. So if you want to be get your name in the hat for being, because I'm drawing a name every day to give away a gift card. If you want to be eligible to win that gift card, follow me on Instagram, like me on Facebook, and subscribe to me on YouTube. And tag a friend and say done. 3 things, because we're turning 3. And your name will go into the hat to be in the drawing. You only have to do it once. If you want to do it twice, then your name goes in. You know, if you want to tag 3 friends, your name goes in again. So the more your name goes in, the better chance you have of winning. But you don't have to, because your name, and once you fill the requirements, your name goes in and we pull a name. Basically, it is a computer generated thing, but yeah, it just sounded better coming out of the hat.
I think it's a computer generated hat.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, a computer generated hat. So now, next week, we will be back here with our next series. Dr. D will be here. She's an internal medicine doctor. She's going to be talking to us about self-care, about taking care of ourselves, because COVID is for real. And a lot of us are going back to work. We need to take extra precautions when we go back to work. Questions we should be asking the family, things we should be doing to take precautions to keep ourselves healthy. So be back here next week. Dr. D will be here, and we're going to speak with her about self-care and keeping ourselves healthy while we go back to work, families. Because I know a lot of us, I'm going back to work on the next Monday. I'm going back to work. But it's the same twins that I just finished sleep training back in May. So I know the family, so I'm excited. I can't wait to see my baby girls, because they're like 2-3 months older. And I'm like, they're rolling over now. I'm just like, they were barely getting to like tummy time when I left. So now they're rolling over. So I know I'm in for a treat. So thank you again, Kimberly. We really appreciate you coming and sharing your knowledge and doing your demonstrations with the swaddles. I might kind of like the little Velcro now.
I have a way of transforming people, like, come to the Velcro side. It's not that bad.
Yeah, just like come to the dark side. Hello.
Yeah. No, come to the light. Come to the light.
Come to the light. Okay, well, I'll come to the light. But thank you so much. And you all have a wonderful week. I will be back on Thursday with the Nanny Hookup, 3 p.m. Thursday afternoon on hookup on YouTube and on Instagram. So I will see you on Thursday. I'll talk to you all soon.